Morning, everyone. Please take a seat. We're about to start. Okay. Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Good morning. So I know we have a lot of we are going to start the kids competition, but before that, I want to make sure that all the kids are here. So if you're in a team and you're a kid, please scream. Are you guys here? I'm not sure everyone is here, guys. Are you guys here? Let's try one more time, okay? Are you guys here? There we go. Now we know everyone's here. Okay, judges and mentors, please, if there's someone around there, there's still free space here at the front. So I hope you guys are ready, and I want to welcome on stage the MC of the event. He was former Secretary General for the Círculo de Empresarios. He's a non-executive chairman at Data Venture, and of course, he's the president of the Foundation Create. Please welcome on stage our MC, Jesus Sáenz.
Well, welcome everyone to this annual meeting of Young Talents. South Summit Kids. I have the honor to be the president of Fundación Create, a non-for-profit organization. We, a group of institutions and individuals created 7 years ago, seeking to develop entrepreneurial mindset, innovation, and abilities from very young age, as young as 10 years old in elementary school. In this incredible event, the South Summit, created by Maria Benjumea, unfortunately she had to leave, but if not, I would ask for a big applause for her because of her visions, her energy, and her hard work. This is a great event for innovation and technology and entrepreneurs. In this incredible event, we are proud to say that we have been organizing South Summit Kids for over 5 years. The kids competition brings light on what the future generations are capable of creating. I can guarantee you will be surprised of what's coming next in the next hour. You will find co-creation, initiative, critical thinkers, and confidence. South Summit Kids brings together a selection of excellent project ideas developed during the past year using innovative methods with teachers, like those used to design cutting-edge products and services presented these days at South Summit, bringing the students' creativity and entrepreneurial talent to their maximum potential. This year, the students have identified problems related to the environment, and so their projects are based on solutions that they propose to these environmental challenges. Let me explain how it will go. We will have a selection of 7 projects that have worked with creative methodologies like design thinking, project-based learning, team working during the year. There will be 2 categories. Kids category, coming from elementary school students. We have 3 projects of Madrid schools, and a special 4th project from a visiting school from Latin America, from Uruguay, thanks to the cooperation of Fundación Prosegur. And the teen category, coming from high school students, we have another 3 projects of Madrid schools. All the teams have worked very hard to get here, especially in the last month, when they have been able to improve their presentations and their speeches, their elevator pitch, thanks to the mentors that we are lucky to have dedicated to these students, and whom I will be calling to come up to the stage so they can introduce their teams and convince us all, especially the jury, of why their project is the winner. And the jury today, I must say to you all, that is really very top level. I want to present them all. Can you please stand up when I say your names? First, Federico Flores, Chief Information and Innovation Officer of Ferrovial. Thank you, Federico. Marisol Menéndez, Head of Open Innovation and External Ecosystem of BBVA. Thanks, Marisol. Andrés Saborido, Director of Guardia Spain, Telefónica. Thank you, Andrés. María Ángeles León, President of Open Value Foundation. María Ángeles, thank you. José Mínguez, CIO of Endesa. Thank you, José. Almudena del Rosal, Secretary General of Promoción de la Ciudad, City of Madrid. Thanks, Almudena. Alberto Terol, Digital Senior Manager, Iberia. Thanks, Alberto. Ricardo Fernández, Partner, Deloitte. Thanks, Ricardo. And Catherine Grass, Thayer Ventures Partner. Thank you, Catherine. I'd like to thank you very much for dedicating this morning to the youngest entrepreneurs of the South Summit. The dynamic is very simple. I call the mentor introduces the team goes up and presents in maximum 3 minutes, elevator pitch, and then the jury will ask the questions that they consider pertinent, and so until we have seen and enjoyed the 7 projects. Thank you. Now I see Maria Benjumea arrive. I say a few words about you, Maria, but now I will ask for the big applause because you have made something unbelievable with the South Summit. After all the presentation, we will finish with a family photo here on the stage. Kids, mentor, teachers, and jury, please. We must finish sharp, 11:20, and leave immediately. The jury will deliberate with which project is the winner of each category, kids and teens. The winners will be announced in the closing ceremony by Maria at the arena stage at 12 or 12:45? 12:30. Without further delay, let's begin. We will start with kids category. I must say that this year we have special participants in this category. We will have 2 teams coming from our Spanish schools competition, Drawing Ed, selected among more than 400 projects. We will have 1 project developing our social responsibility program, Hijos con Talento, where the children of employees of different companies undergo our entrepreneur boot camp, represented today by 1 project from Franco Santander. And the Uruguayan team comes from a development cooperation program with Fundación Prosegur. We at CREATE have been closely working with Prosegur in schools from 6 countries in Latin America. This team comes from a rural school with a whole different reality from ours. Great to have you here, our friends from Uruguay. A big applause for them. Well, and the first team, please, come on up. Clementina Lecuna, previous Global Sourcing Director at Aquanima, Grupo Santander, and introduce your team, Molimpio.
Good morning. I don't know if you're listening to me yet. Right, good morning, everybody. I'm proud to introduce you to the Valdefuente school team. During the last year, they've been working with Fundación CREATE's methodology to come up with a device that could potentially improve the life in the world, but for sure it would cover a specific need the city in Madrid needs. Their experience through Fundación CREATE's methodology not only has been a design and innovation thinking process, but they also had a lot of fun and they had learned teamwork. So here they are.
Hi, we are the students of Valdefuentes School. We form Molimpio team. Our names are Sara,
Alejandra, Pablo, Jaime, and Ángela. Before starting, I would like to know who of you likes pollution, because this will be your planet. I prefer a planet like this, a planet green, beautiful, and special, and the most importantly, clean. For this reason, we have created Molimpio.
Molimpio is a product that we have been preparing throughout the year. It is a windmill that absorbs polluted air and filters it.
We created Molimpio because we have seen people with pulmonary diseases. We also live in a city where the levels of pollution are above average.
Our first thought was to sell Molimpio to the city councils, and if everything goes well, we can sell it at different shops so people can buy it.
It has many things in special, among them that it reduces polluted air and filters it. Also, because we don't have a planet B, and is respectful toward the environment. When the blades turn on, they make the contaminated air enter through special ducts,
where there are several layers of filters that clean the contaminated air, so the air comes out clean through these other tubes.
There will be a maintenance service that will fix it in case it breaks down. But if it is not fixed in time, the other tube could be running.
It has multiple benefits, among them that improves the health of people, and so who buys a Molimpio will have more quality of life. It also has double function, because apart from cleaning the air, thanks to its attractive design, it can decorate the streets, gardens, or housing developments where we put them. There are also two sizes, the big one and the small one. The last benefit, no less important, the City Council will give whoever bought a Molimpio a housing discount.
If you want more information, visit our website, molimpio.com.
With
Molimpio, we can change the world.
Ha molado mucho. Creo que mi madre está llorando.
Well,
Creo que mi madre está llorando.
well, I will ask a member of the jury to make a question about the project. Any doubt you may have, any clarification, please.
Congratulations, I was impressed. Os quería hacer una pregunta que la voy a hacer en español y es, yo veo que el molino se mueve con el viento, ¿no? Esa es la energía que usa. ¿Y habéis pensado otro tipo de energía los días que no hay viento?
Sí, hemos pensado que también pondremos paneles solares para que funcione cuando no haya viento.
Fenomenal, gracias.
Well, thank you. Puede retirar. Bueno, ruego que al tercer equipo que pase a que le pongan el micrófono. ¿Están aquí ya? Bueno, pues entonces voy a presentar el segundo equipo. María Adelina Lucas es la mentora, es la CEO of Inmark Mobile. Please, María Adelina, would you please introduce your team? Yeah, come up, please. Subiendo, subiendo.
Good morning, everybody. Come on, imagine a clean ocean. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this magnificent group of entrepreneurs of 11 years old. They are Claudia, Iciar, Irena, Nicolás, Adriana, and Alfonso from International Aravaca School. They have worked with a great passion and enthusiasm in an incredible project, which I hope will come true for the good of all humanity and environment. And who better than all of them to introduce you. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Today we are going to present you Imancamop.
Imagine a clean ocean.
What is Imancamop? Imancamop is a machine that has a camera to observe where the trash is, an electromagnet to pick up metals, a net to pick up plastics, and a nap to keep you informed and updated.
We are students of 11 years.
I'm Claudia, the coordinator.
I'm Iciar, the researcher 1.
I'm Irena, the designer.
I'm Adriana, researcher 2.
I'm Alfonso, the financial controller.
And I'm Nicolás, the communicator.
Our mission is, we want clean oceans in the world to see creatures live happy in a clean environment.
No more rabbits in the oceans!
Our product is creative, ecological, and beneficial for our society. We want our customers to feel satisfied, confident, and actively cooperative with the environment. We consider ourselves as creative, persistent, hard workers, and entrepreneurs.
Our customers are shipping companies, coast councils, people who live near the sea, and people who worry about the environment. The sale. Our product is quality certified,
And we have council agreements, and we provide them for full training for the Coast Guards. The sale is through the web. The Imancamop price is €1,000 with 3 years of warranty, with 5 years of maintenance included, and an optional insurance, annual insurance.
The Mancamop benefits for the council are you can have the Clean Ocean certificate, you can also have the Quality of Life municipal certificate, there are going to be more tourists in your council, and of course, more money from the government to invest in the city. The Mancamop benefits from the citizens are they are going to have the feeling that they are helping the environment, they are going to enjoy clean beaches and oceans, and they are also going to enjoy the environment with Quality of Life municipal certificate.
The benefits for the shipping companies are they're not going to be contaminated fish and they're going to have more sales.
How does it work? First, you download the app and log in. We have an agreement with the Coast Guard to place Imancamop wherever you like to. The absorption motors. Imancamop goes down the sea bottom and its absorption motors filtered all the water they've absorbed. The magnet, it catches all types of metals that are on the sea. The net, it picks up plastics and other trash that floats on the surface. When Imancamop realizes it's running out of battery, it goes up to the surface and recharges itself with solar panels. With the app, you can control Imancamop movements.
As you can see, you have the app. We have two apps, one of the customers and another from the Coast Guards. First, we log in. Then you have two options, automatic or manual, and you can see the Imancamop location. You have options to activate the camera, the net, and the magnet. You can control the waste and the battery, and you can see the notifications from the Coast Guards and graphics with the rubbish level, one in general, another in your zone. For more information, contact us at our official website, personal emails, or even at our school address.
Thank you for your attention, and remember,
No more rubbish in the oceans!
Bien. A la poder retiraros para dar paso al siguiente. Well, next team mentor is Ignacio Fernández de la Cruz, VP of Banking and Corporate Finance of Banco Santander. Please, Ignacio. Sorry, we forgot the question. Sorry, the jury. One question. One member of the team, sorry, we have one question. Sorry, it was my mistake. Come up, please. Just for a question of the jury, okay? Please.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your presentation. It was amazing, and it was a great job. Complete definition. Do you want the question in Spanish or English?
We don't mind.
That's great. Can we use this device also in lakes and other water, not only in the ocean, but lakes and rivers, for example?
Yes, you can use it in lakes, rivers, seas, oceans.
Perfect. Congratulations again. Thank you very much.
Ahora ya sí. Ahora ya estoy diciendo. Well, Ignacio, come up, please, and introduce the team.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce you to this terrific team. They are full of energy and creativity, but mainly full of talent. They are about to explain you the proposition they have been working on very hard, impacting both the planet and everyone's economy. This is Ecolabora.
lo dejo en el suelo y luego lo cojo.
Hello, we are Mateo,
Jaime
Fernando,
and Silvia.
What we found out? We found out that trash cans weren't respected and people left all kind of garbage in them. We also found out that the trash cans were shattered and people left the garbage out of them. After some research, we discovered Spain is one of the countries that less recycles among other European countries, and only 15% of them is recycled. In Germany, people get money back if they bring glass bottles into the supermarket.
A Colabora proposition is to encourage citizens to improve their recycling practice through a direct economic impact by signing up in a competitions. 2 tools will be needed: smart trash cans and a Colabora app.
One family will be one team. The smart trash cans will be placed where the original trash cans were. The ranking will be updated monthly.
The smart trash cans design. Here you can find out the inside and outside views of the smart trash cans.
How does it work? First, join the Eco Game directly through the app. Second, log in approaching your smartphone to the smart trash cans. Once open, you can place your waste. Smart trash cans measure the waste deposited and records it in your profile. Everything related to the project will be manageable from the app. The more you contribute, the less garbage tax you pay.
The app. We also designed the app. Here you can find out some examples of how the app would look like.
Although we don't really need a lot of funding, we will need some help. Once we have covered initial expenses with the app, our entire system should be self-financing. We are going to communicate our project through public entities, information brochures, social media, and traditional media.
Play your part. Join the Eco Game. Save money while helping save the planet.
Bien, nos han sobrado 30 segundos.
And saving time, you only took 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So the question from the jury, please. Ricardo.
Thank you very much and congratulations. I love the gamification aspect of your project. Mi pregunta para vosotros es, además de familia, ¿habéis pensado que esto pueda ser utilizado en empresas? Gracias.
Yes, we
En español.
I can say it in Spanish.
Yes.
Sí, lo hemos pensado y hemos pensado también que podría ser también por empresas, pero tendrá un ranking más alto. Por ejemplo, si tienes un ranking más alto de una casa, por ejemplo, no puede ser lo mismo que de un banco. El de un banco tendría que ser más alto.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, next team, this is Isabel San Pedro, Amia, Global Head of Fundación Prosegur. Introduce your team, Baja Volumen, from Uruguay.
2 months ago, these amazing, brave children did not speak a single word of English. But today they are here solving one of the greatest challenges of the planet. United Nations says that 2/3 of global population will live in cities in 2050. Can you imagine the noise level and the impact in our daily life? Well, Baja Volumen's device and app will not only reduce noise pollution, it will also improve urban living with a strong citizen engagement. With their effort, with their passion and creativity, they have shown me that changing is possible if it starts with you. Please raise your voices, Baja Volumen!
Good afternoon. My name is Lautaro. I come from Las Violetas Canelones in Uruguay. Together with my fellows Tadeo, Tiago, and Mariano, and our teacher Dario, we represent Rural School number 88, Alfred Nobel. We would like to thank the organizer for this invitation and Fundación Prosegur and Fundación Create for making our trip possible. We are here to present Baja Volumen, a device and app for monitoring noise pollution, raising awareness and promoting citizen involvement.
Do you know the difference between sound and noise? Sound is what we hear. Noise is what we don't want to hear. It is unpleasant sound. We can enjoy the sound of our mom voices or birds singing outside the classroom. But noise is something different. Let's try. Can you help us?
Yeah.
Please, at the count of 3, scream from the bottom of your lungs. 1, 2, 3, come on! La tabla. No la tengo. Wow! Crowd noise can be as high as 80 decibels. Noise pollution has many sources: transit, industries, street vendors, shops. All the noise it produces can cause hearing loss, trouble sleeping, lack of concentration, and decreasing school performance. Oh, well, that explains a lot about the recent grades. To fight noise pollution, we have created a device for monitoring noise that comes from vehicles. The prototype has a camera and microphone that will record motor vehicles producing sound higher than 60 decibels. Each record will be stored and also transmitted via Wi-Fi to the local authority for processing the corresponding file. We have also designed an app. It will allow the user to see information about our project and noise pollution in general. It will also allow real-time measurement of circulating vehicles that are suspicious for noise pollution. Any users could take a picture of the license plate of a noisy vehicle and send it along with the noise reading to the corresponding authority.
Baja Volumen proposes fixed checkpoints for monitoring noise pollution. At the same time, the free app will promote citizen involvement in monitoring noise pollution, multiplying the points of control. The app will help raising awareness on noise pollution by providing information, tips, and other resources. In addition, the system can be used in educational environments, workplaces, and even public events. The free app has been the flagship of our project. To promote it, we plan to have social media presence, send mailing to selected targets, and build networks with various institutions. So, remember, get our app, lower your voices, check your vehicles, turn down the volume, and help us grow healthier and with better grades. Right, teacher?
And turn down the volume of my city. Do you?
Federico.
Congratulations, amazing project, and thank you for coming from Uruguay. Thank you very much. My question is, in the future, in this terrific company, Baja Volumen, how are you going to obtain revenues?
Our objective is to educate people and raise awareness so that we improve life in the cities. We plan to be in every city of the world because in the future, every city will need it.
Russo, dale.
We plan to create a list with help companies to raise funds, allows a percentage of devices. Will be fund the project so that it can keep on growing.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have finished with the kids category, and now we will listen to the 3 projects of the teen category. We start the first team, whose mentors is Eduardo González, independent consultant. Please, Eduardo, come up. Muchas gracias.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm really proud to have been helping Paula from the Colegio Gonzalo Fernández de Córdoba. I would like to ask a couple of questions. I want to check something. Please, can you raise your hands if you'd like to see your city free of garbage? Raise your hands. Okay. You raise your hands if you like to not be all the time searching for the right container to put the garbage. All right? We like to pay less tax. Right? There are not many hands, huh? Okay, perfect. Okay, so who would you like to see, instead of containers full of garbage, to see green parks? Who would like to see that? Excellent. So I think you're gonna love what Paula has created for us here. And I hadn't seen the Colabora from Hijos con Talento, but you're gonna see there's gonna be synergies, and we're gonna talk later for a partnership, okay? So please, a big applause to Paula.
Good morning, my name is Paula. I am here to present our project, Eco Original, that my classmate and I we create for drawing it. We are... Para casa.
¿Dónde está el...? Perdona.
We are from Gonzalo Fernández de Córdoba School, that is in Campamento, near Casa de Campo. Do you know the area? Wonderful, isn't it? Fresh, green, amazing. But if you look carefully, you can see things like those. People throw litter everywhere, so they never reach the right container, and we miss the opportunity to recycle, producing water, ground, and air pollution. My team and I could not stand it anymore. We really believe that people feel lazy about going to the right container and find the right one to recycle the litter. But with Eco Original, all these problems will disappear. Eco Original is an intelligent recycling container located underground. So people just have to throw the litter inside, and the container will separate the waste itself. How? Analyzing the color of the bag that they have thrown. Eco Original has a color sensor that detects the color of the plastic bag, and it will send it to the right place to be recycled. We will provide orange to organic waste, blue for paper, green for glass, yellow for plastic, red for metals, and pink for batteries. Eco Original ends bad smells in cities, as it is placed underground, and the surface will cover with green areas. This also help ending with architectural barriers that are those enormous containers that we don't want anymore. Eco Original has an application for smartphones that we designed with App Inventor that advise us about the occupation's levels in each container. And if necessary, we can call the garbage collection services. This app also let us know the container occupations in our area, and maybe in the future could be rankings of the best recycling areas, and councils could give benefits to the winner. Wonderful, isn't it? Fresh, green, amazing. Now it is possible. We have presented Eco Original to a very important recycling organization called EcoEmbes, and they say they loved our project. If I recycle, you can do it as well. Say goodbye to laziness, and the environment will thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to know how did you came up with the idea? ¿Cómo se os ocurrió la idea?
We, in our area, we saw that the streets were a lot of rubbish on the streets, and we thought a container that can separate the waste itself, but instead of on the street, underground, and you can't see this. You can't, if you are walking on the street, you can't see all rubbish on the floor, and maybe are underground and you can see green areas.
trees.
Okay, thank you so much.
Muy bien, Paula. Well, next team, I will ask Patty De Luque, CEO and founder of Brave Factory, who has been the mentor of this group. Patty, please come up.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm very proud and happy to be here to introduce you this brave team from Nuestra Señora de la Providencia, Madrid. My philosophy is don't prepare the road for the kid, but prepare the child for the road. So this is why I'm so happy to be here, and really thank you, Spain South Summit and Fundación Créate and Javier Ortiz for their implication. And let me introduce you this brave team with four Leire, Sofía, Diego, and Roberto. I think they are so passionate about what they have done, and I think they can demonstrate it today, and I'm sure you will get in love with them as I did and the project, because they really show us the case for the future, which is absolutely this teamwork. They have done hard work, sustainability, creativity, emotional abilities, and absolutely a team that really, please give them a big applause to EcoBox. Thank you very much.
¿Esto para qué? ¿Esto para qué?
But we give you this sweetheart, sorry, to remember you that when you do things from the heart, something big happens. And this is the big happens today. Thank you.
This past 13th of June was a special day for us because we participated in the Drawing ED 2018 competition.
We regard with great hope and are extremely grateful to the Create Foundation for allowing us to present our project.
But we should also recognize that your precise feedbacks and insightful questions of some students from other schools made our project complete as it is.
But we rose from our ashes and we present to you the new and improved version of our project.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are from Colegio Estación Providencia in Pinto, and our group is formed of Leire Crevillén, Diego García, Sofía Mota, and Roberto Álvarez.
Our project deals with and proposes a solution to three significant environmental issues we face today. First, energy demand. Second, exploitation of natural resources. And third, waste treatment.
With our system, we reduce the consumption of energy by promoting the use of public transportation.
We decrease exploitation of natural resources.
And finally, we reduce the ecological footprint we are living on the planet.
At first, before popping our balloon, our solution to the aforementioned problems was EcoBox, a machine situated on the walls of public transportation to exchange recyclable waste for public and transport tickets.
But now, we have designed a new version of EcoBox. We present to you EcoBox 2.0. This new version is mobile, intelligent, and has a new focus centered in purging waste.
A significant quantity of the waste is produced at large events where many people are gathered or many people are in need of transportation to get around. EcoBox 2.0 is a reverse vending machine especially to be set up and work in these types of scenarios, which can be, for example, sports events, expositions, etc.
Our system identifies the user with the digital fingerprint, weight, until they introduce the waste products, tin, burrels, plastics, etc. And it corresponds with the quantity deposited, their payment in euros increases. When the payment reaches a certain amount, it can be exchanged, for example, for a ticket transportation or discounts in public transport cards.
This sustainable development is not only good for the environment, but should also be viable, technological and economic standpoint. And EcoBox 2.0 is
the current technological advance in the fields of robotics, big data, and the competences of the cloud permits the technological viability of our system.
Additionally, we have also identified potential ways to deposit through treatment centers.
We would like to finish by saying to you all that we hope to have more days like this past 13th of June, because when works and passes align, the planet benefits.
Recycle the present,
save the future.
The Earth will think for it.
Thank you so much. Choose our project.
Stay here for one question from the jury.
Hello. Amazing. One thing I like a lot, startups always pivotate on the results. We see that you have done this. Could you explain a little bit how has been the process for you? How long have you been thinking this, working on this? The process of developing the idea.
Well, we think at first an idea involving in the public transport, and then we surf in internet and we find an idea like this, but it's not the same because our project changed change.
Puedes contestar en español, ¿eh?
Okay. Vale, pues nosotros pensamos, al principio, en algo relacionado con el transporte público. Y nosotros encontramos una idea parecida a esta que estaba en México, en un tranvía o en un metro de México, y lo que hacía eso era, lo intercambiaba, objetos reciclables, lo intercambiaba, por otras cosas de uso, de consumo propio. Entonces, lo que pensamos nosotros para ayudar, nosotros pensamos esta idea porque nos parecía que ayudaba en dos formas al medio ambiente. Además que reciclábamos, ayudábamos a tener las calles limpias. Y nada.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, and last but not least, I want to introduce Michi Primo de Rivera. Michi is presenter, master of ceremonies. He usually does my task in creative events, but today he preferred to work as mentor of this team. And I would ask Michi to come up and make the introduction of your team.
Thank you, Jesus. You are doing very well, by the way.
Yeah, not like you.
Well, it's been a pleasure to help the Trinity College team. Well, trying to help a little bit because they've done the whole job. I'm not going to discover what they have brought to us this morning on this stage, but let me say that they have a brilliant idea that I'm sure it would make a better and a more sustainable world. Let me call onto the stage to the Inner Cycle team. Please, a big applause.
Good morning. We are Inner Cycle, a group of teens who want to help to save the environment.
I have a question for you. So, could you imagine helping to save the environment, doing exercise, and saving money at the same time?
We are Alejandro Palazuelos Niño, who unfortunately couldn't come today, Carolina Hernandez, that it's me, Leonor Escorial,
that it's me,
and Miguel Muñoz Robles, who is also here. So, the challenge was to make a project that combined sports and the reduction of pollution by producing energy while doing exercise. So, it occurred to us that there is a great demand for gyms and other types of sport facilities, and this is what came to mind.
The idea is to use the energy produced while working out on our gym machines and distribute it throughout the building. We are also designing an app where you can find the amount of energy produced daily and the discount that you will get on your gym fee. Discount? What am I referring to? Well, the greater the amount of energy you produce, the larger the discount that you will get on your gym fee.
So, there are three principal advantages for this project. The first one, that we help to save the environment. The second one, that we promote sports. And last but not least, that our clients save money. So, but now, who do we offer our product to? Well, this product is for people that are really interested in trying to help the environment and on having a healthy and fit life. So, our cycle machines can be fitted into gyms or private homes.
There are benefits for all. The gym saves money on their electricity costs,
with the energy produced by people doing exercise. People keep fit and stay healthy and save money on their gym fees. And those who install an EnerCycle machine in their homes can use that energy to save on their electricity bills.
So, our expenses will be the cost of manufacturing our machines, and the profits will be the sales of our product.
Our brochure is totally sustainable because we do not use paper. All you have to do is to scan our QR, and there you will find all the information. Thanks for discovering EnerCycle.
Helping to save the environment is also a sport.
We also have to thank Miguel that helped me a lot with the project.
Who is taking the floor?
So congratulations, sports and environment. I couldn't think of a better combination. So working as a team, what was your key learning in terms of collaboration?
Well, we learned how to listen each other for some ideas for the project, and we also like that as a group we also have a lot of we are now like have a strongest relationship between us, and that is all the things that we liked a lot about this.
We are like a family.
Yes.
No.
That's cool, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you have seen the 7 projects our young entrepreneurs propose to protect the environment and improve our world. So I'm very happy to be here today on the stage and not sitting with the jury, because really you have a very difficult task. So now, after we close this meeting, this presentation, the jury will join together, they will deliberate, and they will decide who is the winner of each category. And we will all know at 12:30 at the closing ceremony of South Summit. And now, before we finish, I will ask all of you, all the teams, the jury, the mentors, the team of Create, to come up here for a family photo. And I hope to see you all next year. See you next year. Thank you.
judges, please. Judges that need to deliver, can you go to the backstage, please? Delivery for the judges at the backstage, please. Thank you. speaker that's very close to my heart because I've been very critical. I'm a computer scientist and I specialized in AI. And for many years, I've pushed the notion that, you know, automation, AI, it's a good thing, until recently, where I'm starting to see all these things going to shit and all this incredible impact in human society and the speed of automation and a bunch of other things. And it's getting scary. So to talk about how innovation, how ethics, and how trust kind of mingle together, we have our next keynote to cover that stuff. And to talk about that, we have an incredible speaker. She's the Chief Strategy Officer at Amia, an executive leadership sponsor for inclusiveness and corporate citizenship at FTI Consulting. She's an active member of Women for Tech, by the way, big fan. Active member of Tech for Good. Prior to her current position, she worked for 12 years at Ernst & Young, at EY. Among the things she was spearheading there, she was working in the complex performance improvement program with her clients. So she's being on the front run of how complex these technology problems are and how it impacts people. So please welcome our next speaker on stage, Caroline Das-Monfreux. Big applause, guys.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I was really heartened to see the kids on stage earlier because what I'd like to talk to you about today is going to impact the next generation and probably the generations after that. So, you know, a bit of background. For the last 2 decades, I've been working across all industries, retail, consumer products, technology, media, communications, financial services, with big companies, medium companies, startups, about their innovation. And I think what I take from that is 2 things. First of all, the future is very, very exciting. I mean, we've seen this at South Summit. There is so much change happening in the world right now. And digital and technology is going to reinvent everything. We will live longer, we will live better, hopefully, and we're going to see more clean sources of energy. There's just so much going on right now, and it's exciting. But there's one thing that we're not talking about enough, which is all the data that's being created and the implications of that. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is the concept of unintended consequences. That's the consequences that we're not thinking about right now. Innovation is great, but we've got to think about how it can be used and for what purpose. So a bit of background in terms of the scale of the data that we're creating right now. We've got 3.7 billion humans on this planet connected to the internet. That's half the world connected to the internet. The other half hasn't come online yet, but it will at some point. With 3.7 billion humans on the planet, we're creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. That's such a big number, I can't even put it on the screen. We're creating a lot of data right now. And every day, every week, every month, we're creating more data. Now, that data is everything. It's your payment information, it's your identity data, it's commercial data, customer data. There's just so much of it being created right now. Some of it is created by businesses. Some of it is created by governments. There's just a lot of it floating around right now. And what's really interesting is that, for the moment, those databases are not connected. But what happens when all the data that we have created, all the data that we keep on creating, starts coming together? Because it's not just about the data. There's this concept of analytics. We're seeing that data being stored in the cloud. And then with analytics and machine learning, we can start making sense of the data. We can use it. We can put 2 and 2 together. We can create new perspectives on people, on businesses, on countries, on governments. That data can be very, very powerful. And it's not just the intangible. By 2020, there will be 200 billion objects connected to the internet. 200 billion objects connected to the internet. There's only 7 billion people on the planet. Can you imagine the scale of that? So the data that's being created is not just created by online transactions as we think of it right now. It's also data about all the things that surround us. Not just our phones, but our smart homes, our smart cities. We're basically living in an era that's pinned on a platform that is enabled by data. So data is the new oil. And I want to talk about that today because I don't know if you've come across this concept of unintended consequences. Has anyone heard the story of the monarch butterflies? No? Okay, so there's a very big business in the US. It's an agribusiness. It's one of the biggest producers of food in the world. And what they did was, a few years ago, they embraced innovation. They thought we can use innovation to increase crops, to reduce the waste, to make sure that the seeds that we plant give us better returns, less waste, more money, right? So they engineered the seeds and worked on different types of pesticides and applied those to millions and millions of acres of agriculture. And it worked. It worked very well. The yields were higher. The crops were growing better. It worked fantastically well. But then something started happening. Monarch butterflies started to die. There's been 900 million monarch butterflies that have died since 1990. Now you would think, two separate issues. But actually, the pesticides and the genetic engineering of those seeds resulted in some insects not being around anymore. Monarch butterflies eat those. And so as a result, the monarch butterflies started to die. And then you start seeing a chain of consequences because there are birds that eat those. So when you change something in an ecosystem, it has a ripple effect. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because the data we're creating can have unintended consequences. We don't know what those consequences are just yet, but I'd like to give you two examples. I'd like to give you an example of how institutions and governments change and what that means for data. And then I'd like to talk to you about the darker side of the web and cyber issues. So you might have come across this in the papers. There was a program that was launched by Barack Obama in 2012 called the Dreamers program in the US. The idea there was that there were millions of Mexican immigrants on US territory, and those had been living in the US for a really long time. They had children. There were children born on US territory that were illegal, and there were many people like that. The Obama government said, we need to rectify the situation. And the government said to people, come forward. You are illegal, but if you come forward and you tell us who you are, you will be safe, and we will help you get US citizenship, and you will basically be integrated into society. 800,000 illegal immigrants came forward as part of the Dreamers program. And the government at the time kept its promise. It processed those applications, etc. But then a few years later, Donald Trump was elected. And Donald Trump had very different views on immigration. And what he tried to do was to basically revoke the DACA program. So all those immigrants who stepped forward and said, I exist, gave their data, suddenly ended up in an environment where they were not safe anymore, they could be prosecuted, they could be deported. Now, the law hasn't been revoked just yet because there are institutions that are slowing down the process. But ultimately, the point here is that governments can change, institutions can change, geopolitical dynamics can change. But what doesn't change is that once your data is out there, it's out there forever. Those people now are on the map. And it's just an example, and I won't share my personal political views on this, but the bottom line is that we need to think carefully about what data we're sharing and how it might be used. And if we're sharing our data, we also need to think about the infrastructure in place that will make sure we abide by some principles around democracy, around freedom of expression, and around respect. Because we've learned from history that things sometimes don't go according to plan. And what really worries me here is that it's not just identity data we're talking about here. I don't know if you have that in Spain, but in the UK you can do a property search. So you can look for an address in a neighborhood in London, for example. And then you can click on the neighborhood and get a breakdown of how many Christians live in the area, how many Muslims live in the area. You can get a breakdown by socioeconomic status. You can see kind of the range of earnings for the people living there. You can actually narrow it down to who lives where, who they are, what religion they are, what race they are. And there's a lot of data like that being connected in the cloud. The other thing that worries me is that we're also starting to capture human genome data, DNA data. There's a startup called 23andMe, I don't know if any of you have done that, who basically takes some DNA samples from you, and in exchange, they give you back a full report around your DNA makeup. So they will tell you how likely you are to get Alzheimer's. They will tell you which type of cancer you might be susceptible to. And it's great. I mean, who doesn't want to know that? You can actually have a customized view of your genetic makeup. And as a result, you can take preventive action. You can, exercise more. You can decide to take, medicines that will slow down or avoid any of these potential diseases. So that's great. But as a result, we also now have DNA data on the cloud. 5 million people have their DNA data on the cloud. And in a year's time, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 times that amount. Imagine if that information about race, religion, and DNA was on the cloud in 1945. So we've got to think about that. So there's an official side to the story, and then there's the unofficial side to the story, which is the cybersecurity and kind of hacker view of the world. Now, I work in a business that helps companies address things when they go wrong. So, we specialize in cybersecurity, we specialize in data breach, we specialize in managing things that have not gone according to plan. And it's really scary to see what goes on in the background. Most of us aren't aware of it. Sometimes British Airways gets hacked and we see it in the newspaper, but it happens every day. And that data gets sold on the dark web. So there's a risk around the kind of the official view of the world, but there's also a risk around what goes on the kind of in the 5th dimension, if you like, kind of the dark kind of underground web. And I really want to think about that because ultimately the people in this room, businesses, startups, governments, all of us have a duty to ask ourselves some questions. Questions around innovation, purpose, and also questions around how we might start to create the checks and balances that we need to have in place in the system to make sure that we're not creating a future that's probably not the future we want for our children. And right now, there is no system in place to prevent any of these unintended consequences. There's a lot of leadership coming from large corporates. So all the big tech companies have created a consortium, for example, that's exploring some of these ethical questions around artificial intelligence. I go to many innovation conferences like this, and there's always a discussion around, how might we take preventative action? But ultimately, it's the collaboration in ecosystems that's going to make a difference. And to start that collaboration, we really need to have a dialogue around how we're going to create data, how we're going to capture it, how we're going to store it, and how we're going to protect it. And that is not something that one company can do alone. It has to be a collaboration. It has to be a dialogue. Most importantly, we've got a lot of coverage online around some of the negative sides. But I don't believe the negative side is helpful here. What we need is a vision, a positive vision around what kind of society do we want to create tomorrow. How can we make sure it's fair? Can we really have a true democracy in an environment where elections can be hacked, where fake news cannot be prevented? We really need to think about some of the principles we take for granted, because those principles will need to be brought to life in a different way in a digital age. And to do that, we need to paint a picture. We need to start the conversation. We really need to think about how the system is going to work. Because if we don't have a vision, we won't know how to work together to make it happen. And I honestly believe that regulation is not the answer either, because regulation plays catch-up. We need to be more agile. From what I've seen in so many industries, businesses are always 3 steps ahead in terms of the innovation, in terms of the technologies, in terms of the use cases and the applications that they're creating. So it needs to be a dialogue. It needs to be a collective effort. And I hope that all of you here will play a role somehow in making sure that the dialogue keeps happening, that we have a vision around how we're going to create a society that is underpinned by data, because there is no stopping it. It's just accelerating, it's getting bigger, and it's exciting. We are really, I think, at a turning point in humanity in terms of the society we're creating for ourselves. We've got to make sure it's a good one. Any questions? Or comments?
Cross-check. Thank you. Like the company, they like collude with each other. Like some company may have payment data of the customer, some company may have the commercial data. Like they cooperate with each other so that they can have a full image of the individuals.
Yeah.
So if they're doing like this, how can they cooperate and protect the data?
That's a great question. So just to repeat for everyone, so the question is around the sharing of data between different companies and how to make sure that that happens in the right way. What I've observed in many sectors is that the magic ingredient in that ecosystem is trust. So there are different levels to that. The first level is commercial trust, because very often to operate in a market that's convergent. So by convergence, I mean, I'll give you the example of retail and consumer products. So now we're seeing marketplaces that sit across different industries that are enabled by digital, enabled by tech. But ultimately, you've got 4 or 5 industry sectors that are playing. So I'll give you an example. If you think about the concept of smart cities, and I think we'll hear from the other speakers on smart cities later on, you now have cities that have smart buildings, where you can have smart meters, so you can manage energy in a different way. We're now seeing some collaboration between real estate and insurance and future of mobility solutions. So all these industries are coming together. To your point, it's the data that underpins that collaboration. But then when different industries come together, they start saying, well, this data is mine. I'm not sharing that data with X because it's my business model. If I share that data, I'm giving away my competitive advantage. Also, very often what we find is that there is a missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle, and that piece is trust. So, I've worked on projects where there were 6 or 7 different companies who wanted to work together, but they needed someone neutral in the middle to basically take the data from the different parties, put it on the cloud, create the analytics platform, create the cybersecurity to protect it, but also make sure that different people were putting things in, getting things out, in a way that worked with the principles that were agreed. So to answer your question, the key to making this work is to agree the principles. What are the principles? When we think about how that data is going to be used, is there a do no harm principle? We don't want to make things worse, right? But then there's a second level, which is actually, could we make things better? Is it the role of business to make things better? It's a big question. And then the third one is around, if we are going to work together and have that data shared, how do we make sure it is shared in a way that's been agreed by the different parties and everyone knows what they're doing? Because if we don't have that trust, if we don't have those principles, it's not going to work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Caroline. Okay, so I'm going to keep going through the same kind of topics. In this case, we're going to have a panel. Actually, I'm going to be moderating a panel in this case. And we're going to be talking about how technology can be used for good. And it's quite interesting, the two speakers that we're going to share the roundtable with. One of them, you probably know her project. She's the managing director for Europe for Change.org. So please welcome our first panelist, Irene Milleiro. Big applause for Irene. Thank you for joining us, Irene. Take a seat, please. And our second panelist is actually a close friend of mine. And he's an incredible thing, serial entrepreneur trying to change the world. So please welcome my good friend Iker Mercaide, founder of Subilabs. Okay, guys.
Hey, everyone. I was saying, it's a tough panel. So we have Ken Robinson right now. We have the president of the Spanish government.
And you guys
later.
here.
You guys here. So you guys are the right audience.
For you guys. There you go. Okay, guys. So why don't you introduce yourself and you give a little bit of background of what your projects are. I mean, I think everyone knows them. But
yes. So I am Irene. I've been working with Change.org for around 7 years now. Always in the area of digital campaigning and a little bit of innovation in social change. And currently I'm the managing director for Europe and Australia. That comes with Europe for us at Change.org.
It's like close by, right? Europe and
yeah,
Australia.
they kind of felt like they were not really Asia. So they're trying Europe to see how it works, like Eurovision. They are in Eurovision as well. So
okay, good to know.
We got them as well.
So it's the Eurovision countries.
Exactly.
That is
the
under
Eurovision
your mandate.
countries. Exactly. And well, we are, for people that might not know what Change.org is, it's like the largest petition platform right now. We have around 250 million users worldwide that start and support petitions.
Can you repeat that? 250 million users?
250 million all over the world, but yes, 250 million.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm there
How many of
you guys have signed petitions at Change.org?
You got the rest should sign up.
Yeah. I need some more.
Who hasn't? Raise your hand, please. Get out. Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Iker.
So on my end, I consider myself an entrepreneur. Sometimes I do invest in ventures, but first venture was a fintech, traditional venture-backed fintech. I started out of MIT. I typically start companies. I call myself a dumb entrepreneur because I start companies when I suffer things firsthand. I'm not so visionary. And then I moved back in 2014 to Valencia. That's my hometown. That's where we're based. And I decided I wanted to create companies that would have also, beyond a financial return, social and environmental impact. And that's Subilabs. So essentially, we find problems worth solving. We create the teams around those, and then we fund them. And we're interested in different teams. And this is, we create, so with these teams, we fund them and create for-profit companies that have kind of that triple bottom line mindset. And we open a school for children. It's called Imagine Montessori School. This is our third year, with 130 children, and foster personalized education and a bit different, a bit more innovative. And then out of the school, we decided to create a second venture, which is Eco District. So it's like a small town. So essentially, we're looking for a place to expand the school. We found something that could be much bigger than there's the school, and say, hey, what about if we create a place that people could live in? So it's a small place for 4,000 people, and that aims to rethink how cities will be in the future, in a much more socially cohesive, sustainable, innovative. So themes like biodiversity, circular economy, sustainable mobility, some of those things are.
I love that your
critical.
dreams are not small, right?
We just complicate our lives.
Yeah, it's like,
step by step.
let's build a whole neighborhood. Well, why not? Okay. Well, but you actually touch on something interesting because I'm a Montessori kid, and my kids go to a Montessori school now too. And there's always, in the Montessori education, there's always this kind of battle with technology. Should they use technology? Like all the materials in theory are made out of wood, out of paper. They don't like plastic. They don't like any.
It depends the age of the children.
I know, but it's funny because I was always wondering. I don't know if you guys don't know, the Montessori methodology was started by Maria Montessori, Italian.
100 years ago.
Like 1905, if memory serves me well. And at that time, obviously, there was no technology. So I wonder if Maria Montessori lived now, what would she say about using technology? So my question to you guys is, with all the causes you guys are supporting and all the things that you're trying to push to do good in society, how do you see the role of technology there? Because, as I said, like from the Montessori perspective, it's like, bother retro, don't use technology.
Well, I would challenge that. I would
exactly,
say,
that's why I want
so let's create a bit of debate. So, question is, at what age, how do children learn, and what's critical for them? For example, technology tends to be very immediate with response. You click a button and something happens. What you actually, when they're very young, what you really need to work is patience, for example, and confidence. So we don't use technology for children up to 6-year-olds. We do afterwards, for example.
Okay, that's a good point.
So I think it's not, we think technology can solve everything. I think we have to understand where it makes sense and where can it enhance or facilitate the processes, human behavior, etc., etc.
I'm curious, who here has kids? Anyone here has kids? Okay, a bunch of you guys. Do you guys give technology to your kids, like on a regular basis? Do you let them the smartphone or the tablets? Anyone? Yeah, a bunch of you guys. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it's a tough balance. Yeah, it depends of the age.
And this is, I mean, it's really hard. And this is the idealistic scenario, and that's what's happened. Is like at the end, it's like, you know, their friends are seeing some videos. They want to see some videos. They're gonna, whether it's with you or with someone else.
No, but
so I think it's how do you manage some of those
it's interesting
things.
because I work in technology and I've been working for the past 20 years in technology, cutting edge technology. And my friends ask me, do you use technology with your kids? And when I tell them that that's not necessary at home, I mean, we use it. We have Alexa, Amazon Echo at home, and the kids put music with Alexa, and it's hilarious when they go, Alexa, put the music. Daddy, Alexa is not listening, okay? And they kind of get frustrated. But
it's like another member
exactly.
of the family.
No, once I asked my kid, like, do you know what Alexa is? And he said, like, yes, Daddy, it's an artificial intelligence. And I'm like, oh my. First he said, it's a robot. And I'm like, okay, wow. But so, you know, there's this different angle. So, you know, how do you see that from your perspective? How has technology changed what you guys do?
For us, I mean, one of the things I love about technology, I worked in traditional NGOs before. And for me, one of the amazing things of technology is that it has reduced the barriers for anybody to be able to start a movement or start a campaign or start asking for a change. If you would look at it at the social change arena 15 years ago, you actually had to be a big NGO or a big UN or a big corporation with a lot of money to actually be able to provoke changes in the legislation, in society and in other places. It was impossible for just one person to try to address those issues. For me, the fascinating thing with technology is that it has facilitated that. And I always say at Change.org, any movement, it might be 500 people, 20,000 or 500,000, is started by just one person that at some point uses technology to start a petition and start gathering support from people that might live in very different places or really far away, but that they agree that social change needs to happen.
The first follower, they say, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing is how we've reduced those barriers and allow like basically anybody to be able to be in front of a movement to change things.
Can you share a movement that you guys have worked as of recently that has had like impact beyond the platform, right? That has jumped towards
there's many. I mean, one I really liked, it was a family of I don't know if I'm going to say the right word in English, but it was the mother in a family that had like 3 kids that were allergic to gluten. I think it says celiac, but I'm not sure in English. And they started a petition just asking the government to, in a way, subsidize the products that are gluten-free because they're really expensive.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a lot of money and you have 3 kids that have this problem, your life becomes very expensive.
Well,
so
3 kids is expensive,
yeah,
I can tell you
3
that.
kids is expensive for sure, by itself.
By itself, it's expensive.
So she started this petition, probably thought, most people that start a petition think that it's going to go nowhere, but they try anyway. It gathered in Spain over 147,000 signatures with so many families that had the same problem and said, you're totally right. And at that moment, she realized and she thought, wow, I'm not alone. There's actually a lot of people that have this. And they've created an organization out of the people that signed that petition, which is called Celiacs in Action, I think.
Oh, wow.
And what they're doing is just, doing their own lobby and getting the families together and doing their own lobby for that issue.
Structuring.
So it's just like a place where this person found a lot of people with a common interest and they took that outside and they're going to continue that agenda. So I think those are beautiful cases.
Do you see the same stuff? Because, of course, you are more on the real estate meets technology aspect, which doesn't move as fast as an online movement, right? But do you see technology aiding you, like bringing other people to the cause?
I think it's the power of technology sometimes is balancing the power.
Yeah.
I think it's how now everyone has a voice, and if you convince people around you. So for us, what we're trying to, in some sense, the essence for us, for La Pinada, it's called Barrio La Pinada, is on one end is not just having, say, ambitious sustainability objectives, around carbon footprint, around biodiversity, about many of different things. Then there is also services we create and we're developing to make it easier for people to live a more sustainable life in line with their values. So sometimes we find people would want to take the right decisions, but they don't have the money, the time to get there. So we want to take that burden off. And then the third aspect is more a lean startup mindset applied to creating urban development, which is what we call co-creation, which is instead of, so the traditional model would be someone buys a piece of land, start creating plots, develops those plots, and then essentially decides what they want to. Well, as a consequence,
black money and that's the difference.
But so essentially, they don't talk with the customer. They would say, my target is people with this budget, with this age, whatever, and I push it to the market. And then maybe, someone shows up and buys. We're trying to turn it around and say, let's figure out who share the values of La Pinada, wants to live there, and then let's ask them a few questions, one of them being, what's your budget, and how would you like to live? Okay. And then we involve them, and we define the product together with them. So we have we have 3,000 people sign up to live there. Like every month and a half, a subset of that.
3,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So we first thing we put a landing page, said, hey, here's what we're up to, and a button there and say, I want to live there. And we had 3,000 people sign up. So it's been pretty amazing. And we've been excited, in Valencia, 3,000 people committed to some of these things.
But the question is, do you have a location from those 3,000 people? Are all from Valencia, or you're getting requests from people from elsewhere?
So initially we thought, this would be a great place for families with children, because that's kind of how our demographics, at least the founding team. But it's interesting, that has been 60%. We have seniors that have signed up, with people with digital nomads, with people from overseas, with people from Switzerland sign up. Wow. We've had families, no children, we have singles. So we've had a bit of everything, which is really interesting, because that's enriching, that's the city itself. Yeah. And that ends up creating a much more socially cohesive. So for us, on one end, it's the tools that we leverage for interacting with our community, etc., and giving the power back again, and we can talk about governance and so on, and kind of creating that community and social cohesion. And then also, it's all these different services that we're launching together with our startups. We act as corporate venture in some sense, work with startups. We also work with other corporates to develop joint solutions. And then some of these services actually become spin-offs. So then we pull other entrepreneurs or people that are kind of share some of our...
In a way, it's kind of a lean startup approach to urban design, right?
Yes.
It's kind of turning it the other way
Upside
around.
down,
What we've seen in a lot of companies where they start... Before it was like, I know what the product is going to be, and now they're asking everyone, okay, what product should we design? But the other way around. Interesting. So I'm going to be a little bit, let's take the other angle. When have you seen technology in your platforms and in your product going wrong? Like, have you seen, for example, campaigns that started with a good idea, but then it just like completely derailed, or
not so much that, but I mean, what is clear is like the same way that social media sometimes is used for like the wrong things. It happens the same with our platform. There are petitions that are trying to harass somebody, or they're trying to defamate somebody. I mean, that happens. We take them down, or we take the measures that we need to take. But also I mean, we are very proud of being an open platform. That means we don't really have an ideology or an agenda. We allow like any kind of opinion. Many times there are petitions that are opposing views on an issue, and that's okay, that's democracy as well. That also means that sometimes there's people that use it in the wrong way. The good thing is that from, I don't know, like we have, just if we talk about Spain only, we have around 2,000 petitions started every month.
I was going to ask you, like, what's the ratio?
Yeah, but if we have 2,000 petitions, maybe like, I don't know, like 3-4 of them might be, you know, like the wrong thing, but most of the time people use it in the right way.
Well, but that actually sparks an interesting question, because I think when you look at what's happening right now in technology, when we look about what's happening with Facebook, to put an example, and how people are criticizing when Facebook takes something down or when they keep it up, and there have been a lot of interviews around what kind of rules do they use to decide if that is acceptable and that's not acceptable. You know, is showing a boob acceptable or not? And then you have breastfeeding, right? And but what is
that's the human? So decisions that are taken on top of technology. So technology is agnostic. Sometimes you example is like it's like a knife, or like a company. You can take a company and like a knife and make a beautiful apple pie with your son. That's a use. Another use is you take that knife and you kill your neighbor. Same technology companies.
No, obviously, but my point is technology kind of augments those kind of not black or white decisions, right? We do them every day, but this kind of takes it to an exponential level.
Totally.
So in your case, obviously, 2,000 a month is manageable, but imagine that you had like 2,000
well, 2,000
a day.
is in Spain.
In Spain.
But like if you put it all together, I don't know, we probably have like, I don't know, 10,000 or more, or 20,000 petitions a month.
Yeah, but you have different teams, I'm guessing.
We have a policy team, a global policy team. Actually, I'm managing also the policy team. And it's not like, I mean, it's not easy. There are rules, but there's a lot of like context to be added, and a lot of like day-to-day situations. I really recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, a documentary called The Cleaners. I'm not sure, I think it's in Netflix. I don't know exactly where I saw it, which is about the people that take those decisions at Facebook in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah,
it's an amazing documentary.
I've heard about
that. I think like normally these issues are more difficult than what it seems, more complex. And I think partly we're still in the process of trying to regulate this big country we have that is called the internet. And we have to, we have new policies every day. We evaluate our hate speech policy, our false information policy.
It's an ongoing process, right?
It's a totally ongoing process that, depending on the context, you need to start, adapting and taking decisions and talking to people outside. But I think it's definitely clear that platforms like Facebook, but us or Twitter or others, we just can't pretend that we're open and then that's it. Like people do what they want. We do have a bigger responsibility, and I think we should.
According to the European Union, now you're responsible for what goes on your platform, according to the new copyright directive. So
yeah, I mean, I think there's a responsibility, and I think, but there are groups of internet industry that are already talking about this and about how we address these challenges together, because definitely there are challenges.
And Ika, do you see the same stuff with the people you co-create stuff? Is there?
We set expectations from the beginning. Being part of, say, these co-creators group doesn't mean we take necessarily everything. And there is a commitment. You tell us, and we listen, and we'll do our best. So someone comes and says, I have no budget, but I would like to have a wonderful place, and all this bunch of services, like that's not
for
doable,
free,
right? So I think that's a model, it's a model of governance and kind of setting those rules of the game that everyone kind of accepts. And I would agree that there is, we say we co-found businesses that make the world better, but it all links to also like identifying what are the positive impacts you make, kind of intentionally pursuing those, and also conscious of potentially what are the externalities you're creating. Right?
But that's a very good point. I mean, one of my major points of criticism has always been when companies wait until the shit hits the fan to actually apply something to the problem instead of being more proactive and say, okay, this will eventually happen. Can we put at least some kind of safety net when this happens, right? But I was just thinking, because I did some writing around the co-living situation, and how there's a big bridge between the system handing out spaces for people to live together, but then there's always a human element where then other people would complain that this guy is very loud and we don't want to talk to that guy. So how do you intend to manage that? Because technology obviously helps with coordinating, but there's still this, I would say, subjective aspect of interaction, social interaction between humans.
And it's important. Actually, we would aim to create social value from social interactions, those things. I would say is, hey, we enable people to organize around their interests and motivations, and in fact, if you don't get along with your neighbor, it's fine. You can move to another spot, potentially. So if you have scale enough, they'd say, hey, there are more people. There are some people that you get along better than others. So there is that possibility as well.
Okay, good, because there's always this this situation where they've been talking also about like the filter bubbles, right? And how, okay, I don't like the people that I'm living with, so I'm going to live with people that think like me, right? That we don't like homosexuals, so I'm going to live on this quarter where there's no homosexuals. So do you think that might happen eventually?
So from the get-go, we're saying we want to diverse. That means diversity in many aspects, starting from economic. We're used to seeing cities as this is the rich area, this is the poor area, etc. We'd rather kind of rethink that and say, here's an area in which people share some value, some interest, independently of others. So we build on more what people have in common versus what makes them different. Okay. And then what makes them different maybe enables them to organize in different interest groups, etc. But we all share certain things in common, which is probably, it's like most of the people that are change.org share certain things.
Share some things and not others.
We're active.
Exactly.
We're active, right?
So if you had a magic wand, now talking about technology and all the stuff that's happening around technology, and you could fix something, I mean, what would you like to see technology being used for good beyond your projects, obviously?
I would want people to put their time and efforts in creating things that have a positive impact. So when we think about our opportunities, there is a bunch of different companies that you set up. We filter a bunch that could be very profitable but don't have a social and environmental impact. And we say, we're going to spend time on these. I think all of us, are more happy if we give a purpose to what we're doing, and it's aligned with our purpose, with our values, etc. And that's what I would encourage in some sense and this is in many different ways. So a company we invested in is Subgradient, which does energy access in Africa. So they have 15 people in Valencia and 200 in Tanzania, helping people access clean energy and avoid kerosene lamps and stuff. And this is a guy that was very motivated on that. So I think, and this links with what Ken Robinson was mentioning, is kind of your purpose and your elements. What are you good at? Kind of linking that in a way that not only matters to you, but for the kind of for the rest of the world. I think it's great, and that's what I would encourage people to use their abilities and their tech ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think increasing the tools available for people to realize the power they have, so the decisions of corporations and governments would actually respond to the real needs of citizens. I think this is something that even now it doesn't happen.
Connect the needs.
There's many other to connect the citizens and to give them way more tools to connect with their decision makers and to connect with corporations, so actually their needs are more taken into account. I think we need to shift power. I think, we might be living in democracies, but I still think those democracies are still very much 4-year focused democracies where you vote once and that's your contribution. I think our contribution could be much more constant, and there could be much more constant feedback between decision makers and citizens, because the possibilities are there to do it. And I think we would be in a much better place where people still feel they have the power around the place they want to live, how they want to live, the norms they want to set around it.
But I have a question around that. Is that, and don't get me wrong, I fully agree with you, but when I've seen those systems where you have complete freedom to connect both sides and to get the needs to the right people, most people get overwhelmed.
That's the thing, and that's why I think we need to make things simple. And to be honest, I think one of the success factors of Change.org was to make it simple. I think there are ways to do that. And also, like people don't necessarily need to be right all the time. I mean, the previous mayor of Barcelona, Xavier Trias, he was a heavy user as a mayor of our platform to respond to citizens' petitions.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that he always said, oh, 60,000 people have signed this, I'm going to do it. Sometimes he said, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to explain you why.
Explain it.
Okay, wow.
And I'm going to explain you that we took this decision because of this, and the reply from people were like, oh, wow, I had never thought about that part. I had never seen that perspective.
Okay.
I think it's about engaging in a dialogue. As you said, you listen to people, and sometimes you might be able to respond to their needs, and sometimes you explain why you can't respond to your needs. But at least there's like a constant dialogue happening, and I think that's the most important thing.
So we have 1 minute left, so very quickly, I'm personally very concerned with the social disparity that's happening and how technology seems to be accelerating the gap. And if you look at the Gini coefficient in many countries, it's just like really, really growing really fast. So I wonder, can we counteract that somehow? In 2 words, what do you think technology could, I don't know, how can we, I wouldn't say fix, because I don't know if there's a fix to that, but how can we use this to at least relentize, right, and avoid that gap?
If we had this answer to this question. I do think that what is really important, it was nice to see the kids that were here just before. I think technology can be used to offer more opportunities to people, but I think people need to own technology more. And it doesn't need to be like a top-down thing that most of the time comes from the United States, but more of like a bottom-up thing. We need to teach our kids how to use technology and allow them to be the ones that are going to solve the problems in the future and make the decisions and actually find their ways of living.
So
I'm quite optimistic.
Basically.
Education is
technology.
always
We're going full circle here.
It's always an important thing.
I would say I agree with you. There is you see the stats say, well, on one end there is people in developing countries. Are benefiting from more solutions, etc., living better, and the rich are getting more, richer. But I personally am more worried about I'm fine with rich guys getting richer, but I'm very worried about the other guys making a living, living decently, having opportunities, etc., etc. And so I would say the focus should be on how we work.
Yeah.
Solaris is a great example. These guys have thousands of people they help. That instead of using kerosene lamps, by the way, 3 million people die every year in Africa with kerosene accidents, and they work. Many people walk 15 kilometers to charge their phones, and many women get raped on their way.
Yeah.
So it's all those things is that now they actually have like a solar panel with a battery and a pay-as-you-go system, and now they're more productive. They can study at night. So these are like some of the great examples, and these are for-profit company that is doing very well.
Okay.
So it's like finding some of those business, at least as entrepreneurs, as people from the tech space, finding more of those businesses that can help kind of that bottom of the pyramid, etc. And not just in developing countries, but I would say, we work with things with a lot of local impact as well, not just say in Africa. And there's a lot of problems to be solved as well. I'm actually very glad this event is taking part in the southern part of Madrid. I was actually excited. Like I'm walking from the underground, I see like that, it's a very different area than if you go to Salamanca, right?
That's right.
So I think that kind of meshing is great.
Okay, well, perfect. We've run out of time. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And please, thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on stage. Always a pleasure, man.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, and we're on for the last talk of the track. Is our speaker ready? Okay. So, sometimes it is true that human beings, wait, don't worry, we're just going on a roll here. No, sometimes it's true that a lot of the innovation and a lot of things that change the world don't happen because there was a smart guy, but it actually happens because there was someone that was curious enough to ask themselves why. And even beyond why, to ask themselves, why not? Oh, this cannot be done. Why not? I've started 5 companies. And when I started my first companies, my parents told me, Alex, you're going to do this? This is not going to work. And so like, why not? When I started the first pre-acceleration program in the world for startups, and I got someone telling me, Alex, you intend to change society as it's conceived in Spain. And I said, like, well, someone has to do it. Why not? So to talk about why not, I want to welcome our next speaker. So please welcome Alex Dean, inventor of IA technology. Big applause, Alex. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Hi. So I'm going to get right into it. I love animals. I'm especially drawn to the weird, the wonderful, the ones that look like aliens. When I was young, I wanted to be a vet specializing in exotic animals. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my favorite animals. This is the II. It's I find it pretty cute, actually. You know, big eyes, hair going up in every direction. To me, it kind of looks like you plug them into an electrical socket. And everything goes up. So he's very cute. He lives in Madagascar. It's a type of lemur. Engages in percussive foraging behavior for feeding. So he has a very long middle finger. So he taps on trees to find where the insects are and then burrows the insects out. But according to Madagascarian folklore, IIs are considered really evil. So if you see an II, you're supposed to kill it on sight. And if it points its finger at you, you're going to die immediately. So I really like the II because it has a whole kind of backstory and magic behind it. This is... Oh, that's green. Thank you. This is the glass frog. So I just put it up here because it looks kind of cool. So it's completely transparent. When it's live, you can actually see the blood pulsing through its organs, its heart contracting like this. So I find these really interesting. Some people don't find these interesting. Most don't find them cute. But I think we can all agree on one animal that we all like. This guy. And I've always asked myself, why do we like monkeys? Why? Yes, they're very cute, but I think it's something else that draws us to them. It's their curiosity. Right? At their heart, they have a playfulness about them. And I think we can resonate with that as humans. We see in them a bit of us. So there's been a lot of work over the past couple of years about comparing humans and apes. And specifically, the big question is, are humans smarter than apes? And what's the answer? Anybody know? The answer is actually no. So, for all intents and purposes, we're basically equivalent in terms of smartness as apes. So they can do much of the same as what we can do. They can recognize each other's faces. They can recognize their own reflection. They can understand the concepts of fairness, equality. They have higher cognitive thinking. They actually wipe the floor with us in terms of short-term spatial memory. So they have a couple of advantages where we don't. Where we have the advantage is we have more developed symbolic thinking, so more language. But obviously something puts us ahead of the apes, right? Humans have gone a lot farther up in the world than apes. So what is it that puts us ahead? We have a little intrinsic factor, a magic factor, that has made the human race what it is. Right? This magic factor has given rise to Monet and Picasso and Bach and Beethoven, all these great names. But in terms of, it's really unique to us, this magic factor. We don't see this in terms of other species. As cool as it would be, we do not see this guy with a beret and a cigarette and a paintbrush painting Monet, as cool as it would be. So, why tell this to you? I want to go into some of my background and where I grew up and how my thinking kind of developed. So I am originally from a city in Canada called Windsor, Ontario. We're on the border between Canada and the US, so I can see Trump land, but I don't actually have to live there, so that's good. And now I live in Montreal. And I had a very eclectic, creative, free childhood. So I used to spend a lot of time in the basement just building projects. So this is from when I think I was around 8 or 9. I decided to build an osmotic power plant. Does anyone know what that is? Or have you been to a plant like that? Basically, you use osmotic power plants for energy generation. So I'm going to do a bit of a little science fair presentation here. So we have a tank full of really salty water, and a line coming in from the top from my kitchen faucet upstairs with pure water, and a little permeable filter in between. So the difference in salt concentration is going to suck water out from the pipe going in into the tank, and we can use that pressure differential to drive a generator and generate electricity. So I was actually able to create enough energy to run 4 or 5 light bulbs off of this, I was pretty impressed with myself at age 8 and 9. But the problem is that I had a co-partner, which was my sister, upstairs on the faucet. And she was supposed to control the flow, and she messed up. She put it on full blast. I had water coming all the way in, and basically this whole thing just went pop, like that, and it flooded the entire basement. And my parents were not impressed, but despite that, they allowed me to keep innovating and creating new things. So this is another one of the things that I made. I think I must have been probably same age, 9 or 10. It's called the Subgradient solar pond. So this is a heat lamp that I stole from my lizard, because I was out of materials. And basically what it's doing is it's warming this liquid that also has a lot of salt and some other compounds. And there's a different kind of heating going on in different parts of that system. So there's hot areas and there's cold areas. And I basically have antifreeze running in a circuit like this inside and running a motor and creating electricity. That was, in theory, it did not work at all. So, some of them work and some of them don't. This is another one that didn't work, probably one of my less smart ideas. I had read something about measuring the energy content of manure. So I called up my family's friends who are pig farm owners and went to their pig farm and collected pig poop. And I brought that home. The problem was that it was winter in Canada. So I decided to burn this pig poop inside my basement. And basically it smelled up the entire house for 3 weeks, and it was a mess. But I determined the energy content of poop. So why tell this to you? Well, there's one thing in common between all 3 of those projects, which is that none of them are innovations. None of them are anything new. They've all been done before. But they all forced me to think. They all forced me to ask the question, why? And I asked question upon question upon question, and I trained my mind to think, why? Why does this happen? Why? And what I learned was that eventually this leads to why not. And why not is innovation. So let's go into why not. When I was 12, I was walking around downtown and I met a woman who was standing on the side of the road. And she was just standing there, and I thought that was really strange behavior because she wasn't crossing the road. So I went up to talk to her, and I looked in her eyes, and I realized that she had some visual impairments and she was blind. So I asked her what was out there currently for the blind to help you navigate. And the answer is basically 2 things. One is a guide cane, and 2 is a guide dog. So guide canes basically are sticks you wave around and hit objects with so you can avoid them. But they don't actually help you get to your destination. They don't know where the destination is in relation to you. The second one is guide dogs. Guide dogs can cost $40,000 to train. They only last a couple of years. And again, if they don't know your destination, they're not going to be able to get you there. So a couple weeks later, I, by chance, was in art class. I really love to paint. This is some of my stuff. And I was painting this picture, which is a famous photo that Steve McCurry took called Afghan Girl. So it's a really my painting was a really big one, so I was painting it with my fingers. And I was running my fingers over the canvas, and I realized that I could feel every rut and bump and all the texture. And my hands were so sensitive to touch, I was so surprised. So I thought, why not direct the blind using their touch? Why not do that? So I created the IA. This is one of the early prototypes. The main thing that sets the IA apart is this right here. It's a rudimentary joystick. So what happens is the IA compiles a lot of information about your surroundings from sensors and things like that, but the only feedback the user gets is to the hands. So this joystick will rotate automatically as you walk in your hand to show you where to go, and tilt to show how far away you are. So it's kind of like having a friend by your side 24/7 who can hold your hand, lead you to your destination every time, and you always have a companion. So this is kind of really early demo footage of it going. So that's evolved now, and I've done a lot of testing with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind in Canada. It's in most of the institutes over there, and also now we're moving into the UK and the US. So you can see the joystick kind of moving as I walk there. So it's very intuitive. The patients love it because you're only following one type of feedback. It's very easy to use. So I was lucky enough to get success with the iAid. We'll jump forward to the next slide. Last year, I became the Queen's Young Leader for Canada, so I work with different youth across the Commonwealth and different leaders across the Commonwealth to specifically address issues of blindness. So one of the things I'm working on now is with an organization called Peak Vision in the UK. So a big problem is that for people who live in Indigenous rural areas or just rural areas, like in many parts of Africa, even where I'm from, northern Canada, they don't get access to quality or routine eye care. So what Peak's done is they developed a new app and a hardware component that it's a macro lens that fits on top of your smartphone camera, and it converts your smartphone into a retinal camera. So we can now use your smartphone to screen your eye, the back of your eye, for retinal diseases like the diseases you get from diabetes. So I'm now bringing this technology and working with them to kind of bring it into Indigenous communities and do pilot tests in Botswana. So last year, I was contacted by Chevrolet. They wanted to tackle the issue of teen texting and driving. So there's basically one way that everybody's doing it right now. They're taking the control out of the teen's hands. So if a teen gets a text, the car will block the user from receiving the text or block the call or anything like that. There's only one problem with that. Teens don't listen to anyone. You know, they're known for not wanting to give up control. So we decided to appeal to the two things that teens do listen to, which are their peers and celebrity role models. So what happens is once you receive a text or when someone sends you a text in the car, the system will bring in, through onboard imagery and auditory systems in the car, a celebrity role model or a peer to discourage you from driving. And we've seen really good results from this. It's a very simple idea, but it's worked wonders. So this idea debuted at Cannes Lions last year and just received wide release 2 weeks ago. So we're kind of in the midst of getting everything going. So there's one thing I haven't told you about these 3 projects, which is that I don't actually now, and didn't then, have the skills, the technical expertise to develop any of these things. I didn't know how to code. I didn't have any experience with cars or anything like that. But I learned that you can crowdsource intelligence. When I wanted to solve a problem, I turned to the internet. And basically, the internet solved the problem for me. But you cannot crowdsource curiosity. Curiosity has to come from within you. It's something that's innate, and that's where the ideas are actually born. So, that's actually, sorry, just another video. So this ability to ask why not is an intrinsic part of us. We're not at danger of losing that. But it relies on curiosity. And humans are excellent killing machines. We have figured out somehow how to kill curiosity. With the pace of technology, with the pace of social media, everything's a knee-jerk response. We no longer have to question why why is information that I'm getting actually relevant? Why does it mean something to me? So we have been trained into a different kind of thinking, which I argue is not actually thinking. We're not actually understanding why something works the way it is. So let's go back to my love for animals. There is a species that is going extinct on the planet right now, and it happens to be my favorite species. It's called the curious human. When we're building our companies, we have to stop looking for intelligence, because the world has never profited from intelligence, and I think probably never will. Curiosity is what has shaped the course of human history. Every great mind, every person who has changed history has asked the same question, regardless of what field they're in. Why? Why? We have to not be afraid to do the same. Because if we allow ourselves to be afraid of that, we allow ourselves to become like the monkey. Thank you very much. I also have 2 minutes, so if anyone has any questions or anything, I can take them. Questions? Or I was that clear?
No, just congratulations, brother. It's really, really amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's been...
It's a big thing, and it's an honor to meet you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I've met so many interesting people. Working with the CNIB in particular has been eye-opening, because you see a whole different world of innovation and problems that you never typically experience. Right? It's experiencing the world from the perspective of a visually impaired person is a completely different world than the one that I live in. So developing technology like the one I developed was really hard, because I have to shift my perspective from my life into a completely different way of looking at things. I actually closed my eyes when I was testing the device and walked around for a day blindfolded and just tried to figure out what worked for me, what didn't, what was hard, what was not hard. And that kind of process has been really helpful. So I've learned an incredible amount through all these different kind of experiences. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I think I'm done.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very
Big
much.
applause for Alex. Thank you. And guys, this was the end of the show. We're shutting down the stage. There's still the president of Spain is actually talking right in front of us. So guys, enjoy the rest of the conference. I hope you had a very good 3 days, and it was my pleasure sharing this time with you guys. Enjoy the rest.